Well, you are a legend nonetheless.
Yes, I am a legend. I understand I am.
Of course, this is Tippi Hedren, star of the amazing and personally my all-time favorite horror film of all time, The Birds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome.
So, speaking of The Birds, how was that filming? Was that an intense set? Was it a kind of a lighthearted set?
There were times when it was highly intense. There were times when it was hilariously funny. Sometimes easy, sometimes extremely difficult. There was never 2 days that were the same. It was an amazing film to do. And I can give you examples if you'd like.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, when I go up to that room and we're all sitting around the fireplace and everybody's asleep, and I hear a noise, and I go, in the script it says she goes up the stairs. I said, Mr. Hitchcock, why would she do that? Why would she go up there knowing what has happened to the people in the town, the children, the man who's had his eyes pecked out? I mean, all these horrible things were happening. Why would she do that? And he said, he thought for a moment, and he said, because I tell you to. I said, fine, okay. But when the, you know, the scene where the birds come down the fireplace, okay, the Ray Berwick, the bird trainer, was absolutely wonderful and cared so seriously about the birds. He loved them so much. He was always so careful with them. So he very easily just tipped the box of birds over into the chimney, and they came down the chimney, and we thought that they would fly around the room. Well, they sat on the hearth, and they sat on the coffee table, they sat on the arms of the chair, and I have never seen Mr. Hitchcock out of control. He didn't know what to do. And so we did that scene without any birds at all. We just fought off birds that weren't there. And then after it was assembled, it went over to Disney, and the Disney put the birds in. Did you know that?
I did not know
Aha.
that. That's amazing.
Okay. And then there was the scene where I'm in the telephone booth, and you know, the birds hit the telephone booth, and it was pretty awful. We had that was the exteriors were done up in Bodega Bay, and then we had to bring things. We had to bring props down to the studio, so the telephone booth was brought down to Universal. And we did the scene there with me inside. And they had told me that it was shatterproof glass, and it wasn't.
Oh my gosh.
And when one of the fake birds from high in the rafters on a wire came down and hit the glass, it shattered. And we spent the afternoon picking little shards of glass out of my face, this side of my face.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And let's see, with the one at the very beginning, where I'm hit by the gull.
Yes.
At the very beginning. Okay. Well, there was no bird in sight. None. So they brought the boat down to Universal, and I mean they didn't expect a bird to come out of the sky. They really didn't. So we brought the boat down, and the bird was up on a wire in front of me, the gull, and the prop man was beside the boat, and he had two canisters. One was filled with air, and one was filled with blood. And the hairdresser did my hair in the French roll, and she put two tubes, plastic tubes, up the back of my head. And they ended just, you know, a little bit back of the hairline. And then she took one piece of hair and just pulled it down so it was free. And then she sprayed my hair very solidly so that it wouldn't move. Okay, So we've got the bird up on the wire, and the prop man down there with his canisters with the air and the blood.
Right.
And so it had to be timed so that when the bird came down, I would go, you know, I've been hit, and Bobby Bone, the prop man, pushed the plungers, and the hair blew forward, and the blood came down. Isn't that amazing? You know, it's such fun to think of how we did special effects all those years ago.
And I personally have always thought that's the best way to do it. All the computer stuff that's done now, there's just a certain aesthetic about doing it the way that it was done before, the practical way, that just brings a certain life to the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
The character that you portray, what did you want to bring to her?
I wanted to bring you know, a great deal of sophistication, because that's who she was. She was born into that. But I also wanted to bring in a pathos and a kind of understanding, and that she was changing her attitudes, her things that were important to her, and you know, give her a little more solidity, and I hope I achieved that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you definitely achieved that. Now, at the end of the movie, it just ends, of course, as you all know, just driving off with the birds everywhere, and it's left to the audience's imagination as to what happens. How would you have ended it? I mean, what do you think happens after you drive away?
Well, you know, in the Daphne du Maurier story, did you read it, the short story that Daphne? Well, in that story, it's the end of the world. And I kind of think that that's the way it should end. You know, and one afternoon, Mr. Hitchcock brought all of us into his office, and he wanted to talk about endings. And the one that I liked the best was when the family drives off, we are driving, and then we see the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's covered with birds. And then you see the arches in St. Louis, covered with birds. The Statue of Liberty, covered with birds. The Eiffel Tower, the mosques in Russia, you know, everything. The pyramids, the Taj Mahal, everything is covered with birds. And I thought that would be really wonderful. Of course, it would have been very expensive as well.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true. Very true. Working with Mr. Hitchcock, as a director, is he a very demanding director, or was he? Did he kind of leave you to invent your own as far as characterizations go? And
well, I'll tell you that, you know, The Birds was my first film, so he was not. Alfred Hitchcock was not only my director; he was my drama coach.
Oh, okay.
And what better? You know, I mean, it couldn't have been better, because I had had a technical education doing all the commercials that I did, and that's wonderful. But as far as developing another character, it's entirely different. So he taught me how to read a script, how to dissect it, how to give life to the character, and it was just an amazing time to have with him. And as far as his work ethic, by the time we went over the scenes and discussed them thoroughly at length, there was actually very little direction on the set. Very little. Because we just understood who we were, what the point of the scene was. You know, I mean, it was the best education that I could ever have, and I've used it always, you know, for everything I do. Yeah, it's just been amazing.
What an amazing experience.
Yes, and not only that, he was so well prepared that he felt that the film was finished even before the first day of shooting. He knew exactly what would happen. You know, it was amazing. And he worked from 9 to 5. We had to be there earlier, you know, for makeup and dressing and all that sort of thing. But at 5 o'clock, there was the martini shot. Yeah, it was fabulous.
That's absolutely amazing, and completely unlike the way we make this show. Yes, indeed. Now, are you a fan of the horror genre at all? Do you enjoy those movies?
Yes, I do. I enjoy the horror and the just movies that are scary. I like them a lot. I also like the 40s movies, but I think some of the horror films are, they really can frighten you terribly, and they're done so well that it's which makes them fun. I've turned them off at night sometimes because I think, oh my God, I'm starting to get really creeped out about this. But I do watch them often.
Is there any contemporary one or modern one that you really particularly enjoy, or possibly a favorite?
Well, there's one that it was a long time ago, but it was the scariest one for me, and that was The Exorcist. Absolutely. I mean, I haven't watched it, I think, in 15 years. It is because it really had a terribly strong effect on me. I knew Peter Blatty when he was writing the book, and I was very interested in it, and he said, well, I'd like to know what you think about it. So he kept giving me the chapters as he wrote them. So I didn't read it as from cover to cover. I had to wait until and the suspense was incredible.
Like a serial novel.
Yes, yeah. So I had sort of a vested interest in it, and it wasn't disappointing. But oh my, what an incredibly powerful, yeah, scary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.